Hi, I'm Lucy from Sew Essential and I'm here today to talk to you about walking feet, one of the most useful pieces of sewing equipment you could possibly have. They're not just for quilting, guys. There's a whole host of dressmaking tasks that are made so much easier with a walking foot, and I'll talk you through those, give you hopefully lots of new ideas and tips and techniques that you can use them for. I'll show you the different types, I'll show you how they work, I'll show you the different accessories and things you can get for some of them, and I'll also show you some sewing machines where there's actually a built-in walking foot system as well, so you'll learn everything you need to know in this video. Everything I talk about is available on our lovely website, and you'll find links to our website and the products I talk about below. And we stock Janome, Brother, Husqvarna, Pfaff and Elna machines and spares and accessories on our website, so you'll find a whole host of what you need for your sewing machine right here. There's also compatibility charts for everything as well, so that you can be sure you're buying the right part for your specific sewing machine. So everything you need is right there on our website. If you like what you see today, please like and subscribe, because every Friday I'll bring you a video packed full of sewing goodness. And if you can't wait a whole week, do jump on and give us a follow on Instagram. I'll pop the link below, because every day we share little tips, techniques, what we're making on there as well. So let's get started with the walking feet now and give you a bit of a tour around a walking foot and how it works. Let's have a look at a walking foot, the anatomy of it and how it works. Here you can see there is a presser foot on the bottom, and then it will have a lever like this which sits over the needle bar when you attach it to your machine. And you can see that the feed dogs here, as the needle bar goes up and down, that manoeuvres those feed dogs to work with the feed dogs on your machine and feed the fabric through evenly, which is why you'll sometimes hear it also referred to as an even feed foot or a dual feed foot. I'll show you how to attach one to the machine later in the video, but that just gives you an overview of how it works. So now you know your way around a walking foot and how it works, let's talk about the really juicy, interesting bit, which is what can you use it for? So most people will have heard them referred to as a quilting foot, and yes, in fact, they're brilliant for sewing quilts because there's so many different layers with a quilt. Those layers, it would be very easy for them to move at different rates and for your stitching not to end up in the right place. So yes, great for when you're making quilts. However, there's a whole host of dressmaking tasks as well that they're really useful for, and in fact some people just leave their walking foot on their machine permanently unless they need to do a very specific task like a rolled hem, for example. So let's run through those different tasks. First of all, there's different fabric types to consider. So if you're working with a really slippery, silky fabric like crepe de chine or satin, it can be a nightmare without a walking foot. Those layers do not want to stay together. They do not want to feed through evenly. They're slip sliding around everywhere. A walking foot will prevent that. It will tell them who's boss, keep everything in place and feed the layers through evenly. The same goes for fabrics with a pile, such as velvet, or you might get some wools with a deep pile. Again, the pile can make the fabric move at different rates and want to slide around. Your walking foot will keep everything in place for you. Another example of an awkward fabric to sew with on a sewing machine can be jersey and knit fabrics. So if you haven't got an overlocker and you're sewing jersey and knit fabrics on your sewing machine, there is the possibility for the layers to stretch, to feed through at different rates, and again, a walking foot can really help keep them together. Also, if you want to do some pattern matching or stripe matching, for example, you know, you go to all the painstaking effort of cutting those pattern pieces out so that they match up beautifully. You've pinned them for such accuracy, and then you take it to your machine and everything moves. There's just nothing worse than that. If you use a walking foot, it will ensure that all that hard work stays in place as the fabric feeds through the machine, and you still get those lovely accurate results after you've sewn it. The other thing to mention as well is if you're sewing something that's cut on the bias, or perhaps not even cut on the bias but has part of a seam that's on the bias, such as an A-line skirt or a princess seam perhaps, using a walking foot is fantastic for those tasks as well, because it again will ensure that the layers of fabric feed through evenly and don't stretch out. One thing I would say is always test on scraps of fabric first, and that goes for any sort of sewing technique that you're trying or foot that you're trying. I would always recommend testing on the specific fabric that you're going to be using, just to check that you're happy with those results. But how about that, guys? How many uses are there? How many of those sewing tasks have you struggled with before and been tearing your hair out? Well, the walking foot could be the answer to all of those problems. So now I'm going to show you how to attach a walking foot to a machine. So I'm using the Husqvarna Jade 20 machine, and I'm just going to remove the standard presser foot, and then you can see you've got an attachment here that your feet clip into, which is attached to the needle bar. I'm just going to remove that by unscrewing this. You can just use your fingers if that's a bit easier sometimes. Now obviously you do not want to lose this piece of equipment, this white plastic attachment, because that's what all your standard presser feet clip into. So make sure you put that somewhere safe in your accessory tray perhaps. And then here we've got the walking foot. So there's a part that attaches to the needle bar, and then there's this part, the lever, which needs to go over the needle clamp, which is the thing that clamps the needle in place. So let's just position that, make sure I've got the lever over the needle clamp, and then I've got the foot attaching to the needle bar here, and I'm just going to use that same screw just to screw that in place. And I find it easier usually just to get my hand in there and get it going, and then you might want to use your screwdriver for the last bit. But just remember that one of the big mistakes that people tend to make, I'm doing this left-handed, guys, because of the video, so it's a little bit tricky for me because I'm right-handed, but one of the mistakes that people do make is screwing things far too tightly onto the needle bar. Don't go too crazy with that. Just nice and snug it needs to be. It doesn't need to be excessively tight. And you can see there that we've now got the walking foot attached to the machine. We've got the lever over the needle clamp, and if I turn the wheel you can see the feed dogs are working together with the feed dogs of the machine, and they'll feed that fabric through nice and evenly. Now let's have a look at the different types of walking foot, the different options you've got, and also some of the accessories that are available to go with them. Everything I talk about today is available on our website, where we stock a huge range of sewing machine feet and accessories and sewing machines from all the top brands. So do check out the links below. Everything I show you and more is available on our website. For some makes and model of machine, you'll only have one walking foot that's compatible with your machine, so you won't have a choice. But for many of them, you will have some choices to make. Perhaps the most fundamental choice is whether to go for an open toe or a closed toe walking foot. The open toe foot, as the name suggests, has a bigger gap at the front, so there's more visibility with an open toe option, whereas the closed toe option has less visibility but more contact with the fabric. I tend to use the closed toe option because I'm a dressmaker and that works for the majority of tasks that I want to do. The open toe will work as well, but that's useful perhaps more for quilting, where you want to see decorative stitches forming and the placement of decorative stitches perhaps. But those are sometimes the initial options that you have to choose from. Many walking feet will also come with one of these, and sometimes if you've been given a machine or given the walking foot, you might see this and think, what on earth is this? But this is a quilting guide, so you will often get two with a foot, one for the left and one for the right hand side of the foot, and it just slots in the back of the foot. and you use this to create parallel lines of stitching. So if I line the quilting guide up with my previous line of stitching, I know as I sew I'm going to create a line of stitching that's perfectly parallel to the previous one, and I can slide that guide in or out depending on where I want to position or how close I want to position the next line of stitches. With some makes and models of machine, you'll have the option for a walking foot that gives you different options. So one such example is this one, which is my Husqvarna interchangeable dual feed foot. So this is available for models in the Husqvarna range from group 5 upwards. And in the initial pack, you get the walking foot, you get a closed toe walking foot with 1/4 inch markings, and you get a zigzag foot as well. You also get 2 quilting guides and the screws for your needle bar. And the way that this works is the feet just clip onto the bottom, the presser foot just clips onto the bottom of the walking foot. And that means then that I can change feet to suit whatever task I'm doing. And the great thing about Husqvarna, why I love Husqvarna as a brand, is because they're really innovative and they do come up with lots of different options. So you can purchase separately then other feet to attach to the walking foot, such as this changeable quilter's guide foot, which has got this little line here which you can line up with your stitching so that you know you're accurately stitching in the ditch when you want to do that. If you're quilting or sometimes dressmaking, you want to stitch in the ditch, you can use that. It's also got 1/4 inch markings on it, which are helpful as well. There's also an option for a changeable decorative guide foot. So if you're doing decorative stitches, again, it's got this little line here which you can line up with the seam so that as you stitch and create those decorative stitches, you know the placement is spot on and the decorative stitch is falling over the seam in exactly the same way as you sew along. And then there's also an open toe option as well that's purchasable separately. So that gives you lots and lots of options there and is a really good investment if you have a Husqvarna machine that's the right group. And then Janome also have something similar. So this is their dual feed convertible even feed foot. And again, in the initial pack, this is the Memory Craft version. There are other versions of these convertible even feed feet from Janome, but again, it comes with a couple of quilting guides and the options for an open toe or closed toe foot. And the way that you change this one is you just squeeze the plastic together and that relieves the foot, the presser foot off the bottom, and then you can position the next one by squeezing it together again, and you can just swap it over like that. So lots of different options with those, and they can be a really good investment if you're really into your quilting or there's lots of tasks that you do in your dressmaking where you use your walking foot and you prefer using a walking foot to using a standard presser foot. So I also promised to show you a machine where there's a built-in walking foot. This is the Pfaff Ambition 620, which benefits from the integrated dual feed technology, which is this built-in walking foot here. So I just push that lever down, which clips onto the back of the foot, and that engages the dual feed technology. So it will work as a walking foot and so with all the benefits of a walking foot, and then when I don't want to use that aspect anymore, I just unclip it off the back of the foot and push it up. And this is available on a wide range of the Pfaff machines, from sort of the mid-range up. They're all available on our website. We do the full range and they all have these details in the product descriptions. It's not available on some of the cheaper machines, but as I say, from the sort of mid-range up. And the great thing about the IDT system, let me just show you again just how easy it is to clip it into the back of the foot and remove it, is Pfaff are also incredibly innovative, and they've come up with a huge range of feet for these machines. I've got a braiding and couching foot here. How specialist is that? And I can just clip that into place and I can use the IDT with that, so you can create some really specialist techniques and have all the benefits of a walking foot. They are feet that are specifically designed for the IDT system, so you do need to check that they are compatible with the IDT before you buy them, but all of that's on the product description, and it just means you can do some really fancy techniques using all the benefits of a walking foot. So I hope everybody enjoyed that today. I hope everybody's learned something new and useful that they can take away and use in their sewing. As I mentioned at the start of the video, everything I talk about today is available on our lovely website, and you'll find links to our website and the products I mentioned below. And don't forget that we are specialists in these machines. You know, we're here for the before and after sales support, so don't hesitate to get in contact if you've got any questions. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.